opportunity to have Gene Brown, one of our entrepreneurs in residence here, introduce our guest speakers, Dusin Haggert and Pamela Casco. Mr. Brown.
Aloha.
Aloha.
We're lucky to have Dusin Haggert here as our guest speaker. He's here on a circuit vacation, so that's why we got him. And, I'm the old school where we just started a business in order to make money and create a lifestyle. And that's not good enough for Dusin and many of you that want to not only just create a business but have an impact on the world. And so they've created a fabulous space, an incubator for events. He'll explain it all to do that. And so he's a lot of volunteer time went into this, and now pulled it off to create Impact Hub Salt Lake. He's the co-founder and CEO. It's a dedicated space to connect and co-create ventures that benefit the community and society at large. And there's more than 8,000 change makers across the continents that are doing the same thing. He has also brought a guest with him, Kainoa Costco, who is doing this same venture in Honolulu. So he's going to speak to us briefly about it. This doesn't just happen that he creates this, but it comes from a lot of experience. And Dustin's experience was he got a finance and economics major at Utah State. He holds an MBA in sustainable management from the Presidio Graduate School in San Francisco. He co-founded 2 other socially driven ventures, worked as a consultant on large-scale projects in renewable energy, transportation, and agriculture. He's a combat veteran. He's served 8 years in the U.S. Army and a Rotarian. So Dusin, everyone.
Well, I had to jump at the opportunity to come speak when Sister Brown asked, because I'm only a few years ahead of all of you. And so I hope most of you can identify with some of the challenges I went through while trying to get Impact Hub off the ground. And I'd like to take this time to share my story about Impact Hub, how I came across it, and how I decided to kind of take this direction with my life. And then I want to introduce you to Kainoa Casco, who is working to open Impact Hub Honolulu, which is also a space for like-minded people who are interested in using business to do good in their communities, to come together to collaborate and to have support from one another, access to funding, types of things like this. And then I want to open it up for Q&A, because I want to hear what you guys are working on and see if there's any questions I can answer. Just by raise of hand, how many of you are in the process of working on some type of venture or have an idea of a venture that you want to create? Good, so there's a fair amount. So like Sister Brown said, while I was at Utah State University, I was studying finance and econ, and I spent a lot of time pondering what it was I wanted to do with my career. And at the time I was in the Army, and all the guys in the Army were constantly talking about, whether they're in their 20s, 30s, or 40s, they were constantly talking about how great it was going to be when they retired. And I thought, how ridiculous, these guys are in their prime, they're 20, 30, and they're looking forward toward retirement. And then about once a month we'd have these retirement ceremonies for the folks who were leaving us, who were now 50, got their retirement. And it was so sad because, a lot of them left, they had families, and I think they were going to be okay. But a lot of them, during their ceremony, I'd sit back and watch, and they were up there by themselves, and they'd get their little plaque, and you can see they're very hardened from a lot of the hard things they've done over the years of their career. A lot of them were divorced, and that was absolutely what I didn't want, was to kind of have that same experience. And I realized that outside of the Army, this is very prevalent too. A lot of people, they kind of get the first job out of college, they end up going to work for some job that they don't really love, but it pays the bills, and they don't really feel like they're contributing to society, but they do it, and before they know it, their career's over. And they look back and probably have some regrets. So I spent a lot of time pondering this and thinking about kind of what I wanted to do, and I came across a book called Natural Capitalism, which is, having studied econ, I was really interested in economics. And this woman, her name is Hunter Levins, who wrote this book, and she talked about a lot of the issues we face as a society, and how our whole economy rests on the natural resources that supports it. And that we're coming up on a lot of constraints in these natural resources, and we have some serious issues to face that our generation is going to have to solve. And so this really hit me, and I did a Google search on Hunter Levins, and I found she'd written some other books. I read those, and I found out she was teaching at a school called Presidio Graduate School in San Francisco. And I applied there upon graduating from my undergrad. I got accepted. I was really excited. Went out to San Francisco, and I got to learn from her. I found out that she was, for her job, she consulted governments and large organizations on how to understand their impact and how they can use commerce to create positive impact in the world. And this program was amazing. At the end of an accounting class, we'd all give a round of applause to the instructor, because everyone was just so stoked to be there and be learning these skills that can help them make a meaningful difference in the world upon graduating. And then while I was there, I came across Impact Hub. So, how many of you have been to San Francisco? So 901 Mission, it's in the old Chronicle building. It's a huge 30,000 square foot space. They have over 1,000 members, and people who are engineers, techies, artists, entrepreneurs, investors, people from all different types of backgrounds who are working to solve issues, whether it's in food, energy, mobility, to reduce poverty. And some of them just came to events in the space. Some of them worked part-time, some of them worked full-time. But this was like a community center for them to go get the support they needed and access to capital. And I never witnessed anything like it. I felt like this is where I need to be for the rest of my life. I can hang out with these people, I can create startups, and I can make a difference in the world. So I went back so at the end of my program, at the end of that 2-year program, we had to create a business plan for our capstone project. And I decided I should try to open an impact hub in Salt Lake City, where I'm from. And so I called up Hub Global. It's part of this global organization. So there's 50 of these hubs all around the world. And they're based out of Vienna. So I called them up, and I was all nervous, and I was like, hey, I'm a student at Presidio Graduate School, and I want to start an impact hub in Salt Lake City. And the guy actually answered his phone, and he was totally positive and said, okay, well there's this formal process you have to go through. You have to put together a team. We have to vet your team. You have to come up with 20,000 euro just to get your licensing before we'll approve you. So I went back home, and I'm not from Utah, I'm from Washington State. I didn't know anyone. So I'm thinking, how the heck, first of all, am I going to build a team that's capable of doing this? And then how am I going to come up with 20,000 euro? So somehow I was put in touch with this guy. His name is Soren Simonson, and he was on the city council. Been on the city council for about 8 years. Just ran for U.S. Congress, and he was an architect. And we had to develop this space. So I thought, okay, he's perfect, right? So I sit down with him and tell him kind of all about Impact Hub, what we're working on, and he was really excited. So we paired up, we submitted our application, and they accepted it. I sold my car, I downgraded my living situation, moved into a room with a friend who snores. It's horrible. And I quit my job, and I worked full time. I set out to do this. We came up with the 20,000 euro. We submitted it. They gave us a license and told us we had a year to finish our business plan and open our space. So, hold on here, I got some water. So we spent we got an extension. I think we had a year and a half to open. I spent about the first 10 months kind of spinning my wheels trying to figure out how to make this happen. And we developed our business plan, and we found out we had to raise $900,000 to open the space. Right? So we developed this property. Now I'm an architect, so I figured, okay, with his knowledge, we can develop the property. But how am I going to come up with $900,000? He said this was my job. So I knew two wealthy families that my parents knew, and I called them both, and they both turned me down. And so I went to work. I started calling, anyone who I thought could potentially be a funder. And their response was, well, do you have a term sheet? Do you have a subscription agreement? Do you have an operating agreement? I said, no, but I can tell you what the terms are. I said, well, send me a subscription agreement. So I thought, gosh, it's going to cost me $10,000 to get some an attorney to write all this up. So one morning I was feeling really bold, and I Googled top Utah legal firm, corporate legal firm, and Holland & Hart came to the top of Google. I called the secretary and said, hey, I'm starting this community center for social entrepreneurs in Salt Lake City, and I need someone to put together some investment materials for me. So she connected me to one of the partners, and he said, send me an email about the project, and I'll send it around. So sure enough, they came back and said, we'll do whatever you need. Just let us know what you need, and we'll do it. So they took care of all this stuff. And I went back to the investors and said, look, so here's my subscription agreement, here are the terms. And they said, well, this is a good vision, but you don't even have a space. So from there, we decided, okay, we got to get a space, but to get a space, we have to have money. So I was in this like chicken and egg thing. So we started looking all over Salt Lake City. We finally found this really beautiful building in downtown Salt Lake City, about a half a block from City Creek, if any of you have been there. And it's a huge building. It was built in the 1890s. It was originally a carriage manufacturer. It's got all hardwood floors and brick walls, and it's a perfect space. We talked the landlord into allowing us to lease like 10 by 10 square feet to have our sales office in. So we paid for that as our lease. And then we give people tours of the whole space, and we say, this is the future of Impact Hub. So we started building our community. We launched, so that was in June. In October, this was just last June. In October, we got a kind of a dainty website set up, and we wanted to test the market to make sure people really wanted to join our community before we were to raise and spend $900,000. So for $25, you can become a founding member, you can join our community and start getting involved. And we launched the website, and we started to get some press, and soon enough, we had about 300 people who had paid some money and were coming to our events. And then investors started getting interested. We got a fund that gave us our first $75,000. And then soon after, we had an individual investor who gave us our next $100,000. And then the governor's office came down for a tour of the space. They really liked our vision and the space and what we were doing. And they told us about a grant we could apply for. And so we got another $150,000 from the governor's office. And then they decided they wanted us to open an office in our space. And all the meanwhile, we're building our community. And the building owner then said, "Hey, you guys are attracting the tenants to the other floors of this space. I'm getting all these calls because you're kind of putting my building on the map. I'm willing to put in a few $100,000 to finance the tenant improvements that need to be done." So soon enough, we had 3/4 of our raise, and we had enough to build out the space. So we decided to put an Indiegogo campaign together. How many of you are familiar with Kickstarter or Indiegogo? It's a great way to prove a concept before you go out and spend the money. So we put together an Indiegogo campaign to pre-sell all of our memberships. And we set a goal of $50,000, and we raised that in a month. Let's see. We ended that campaign about a month ago. So now we've got a great community of people working here. Okay, so this is a photo of the space we're developing in downtown Salt Lake City. And show you some of our members and what they're working on so you get an idea. So Dan Barella, up here on the left, he's a young entrepreneur. He actually went to Utah State with me, and he's traveled. He's done a lot of traveling, and he realized a lot of folks in marginalized countries struggle to tell their stories and get the word out. And he noticed that a lot of the news we watch has agenda to it, and he developed a platform that allows anyone from anywhere in the world to post content to, and then based on the activity, so people liking it, people commenting on it, that content raises to the top and becomes news. So he created a more democratized news service. So this is one example of one of our members. Erin Mendenhall, another one of our members, she founded Breathe Utah. We've really got air quality problem in Utah that is starting to affect health of the community. And she was just elected to the city council as well. Akbar Khan is a high school student, and he saw a problem with a lot of children in developing countries couldn't afford backpacks. And he noticed all these business conferences they were giving out these backpacks and they were getting thrown away at the end of the year. And he started collecting these bags in 2011, and now has donated over 11,000 bags to school children in need. Dallas and Melissa Hartwig, some of you may have heard of the Whole30 diet. So they just wrote a New York Times bestseller. And Dallas, his younger sister suffered from a rare disease, and all through his teen years, he tried to come up with, he did research to try to figure out how to help his sister. And through that research, he learned that just our diet has a huge effect on the abilities for I guess the susceptibility to getting some of these rare diseases. And so him and his wife have dedicated their lives to educating people about this. And they're working on their second book right now.
I mean, relative to our,
OFA?
I mean, we're Polynesian, so, or majority of us are from East Tonga.
So OFA's from Tonga. He's a photographer and he's really interested in really helping people in the community to share their stories. He's a really talented guy, and he photographs a lot of our members and writes about some of the work that they're doing in the community. Pablo Black's, he's a Cuban artist, and he puts on a green festival each year. This year he's holding it at the Hub. Kat Archibald, she was a student at BYU in Provo, and she saw a need for, there are a lot of people who are watching TED Talks and reading books and becoming educated outside of the traditional college, and there was no real way to show the education you're gaining from these outside sources. So she created a platform that fixes that, and her team raised $800,000 or $900,000, and Mark Cuban from Shark Tank was one of her investors. And then Ben Bolte here, he started a green bike share in Salt Lake City, which connects the city with a bike share program. So all of these people, they're working on different things, but what they have in common is they have a vision for a better future. And the Hub brings all of these people together and creates a resource for people to connect and co-create the ventures that can better the world. So there's an impact hub coming to Honolulu, and there's a team just getting off the ground here. And Kainoa Casco, who I want to bring up here in a second, is a good friend. We both met at Presidio Graduate School. He's from Maui. He's native to Hawaii, and is on that core team. So why don't you come up and share a few updates on what's happening in Hawaii, and then we'll open up for Q&A.
Hello, everybody. Like Dustin said, I'm from Hawaii, and I'm working on bringing this concept to Hawaii, where we have our own sets of challenges, we have our own culture. So how do we bring this concept to Hawaii and make it what it means to the people of Hawaii and Polynesia? So a little bit about my story. I'm Filipino and Hali, that I'm fourth generation in Hawaii. So all I know is Hawaii, but my mom is from Virginia. Super conservative, right-wing, Republican. I'm their greeny weenie grandson. All kinds of funny stuff, yeah. So I'm always struggling with my dad, who grew up here surfing, diving, fishing, whatever, who don't know anything about politics, and my other side of my family, who's all about business and being conservatives and professors in Mississippi for finance and economics. So I always was caught in between this lifestyle for the environment and for the people and for the values, for this other culture of being about business and making money and doing what's good for the economy. And it wasn't until I went to Portland for my undergrad where I learned that doing good and making money aren't mutually exclusive, and you can do the same thing. They can help each other out, and that's what the Impact Hub and sustainable business and social enterprise is all about. Is finding ways that you can create positive impact, but also make money. People mistake. There's a lot of misinformation out there about sustainability and social enterprise, and that they're anti-business, when really, in fact, it isn't. So you guys, that's something I really want you guys to take away from all this, is that if you guys have a mission, you guys want to do something good, you can make money at the same time, and making money isn't necessarily bad. So that's where these social entrepreneurs and sustainable business startups come into play. So I'm the Chief Responsibility Officer for a business consulting firm. We specialize in sustainability and social enterprise, and helping startups in Hawaii and established businesses really integrate their financial bottom line with, the other bottom lines, the social bottom line, environmental, and also cultural. Now we're taking from Aotearoa, in New Zealand, they're expanding the triple bottom line of people, planet, profit to include culture. So that's what we're trying to bring to Hawaii too, is how we can add culture to this bottom line concept. So I got involved, started to proceed with Dustin, and then found out about this hub thing, and got involved with it. We were all stoked on it, and so I wanted to bring it to Hawaii. There's a few of us that wanted to bring it to Hawaii, but nobody really had the time or energy or money or anything to pull it off. Essentially, it's its own startup. Your entrepreneur is trying to do it, so you need resources where there's time or money or free services or whatever it is. And so, but Shauna Trevena, who she's a real go-getter, if you Google her, all kinds of stuff will come on. She went to Hub SF San Francisco last year, and she came back and was all super psyched about it. She came back and she's like, hey, I want to do this hub thing, let's do this hub thing. So she's, in the past, I don't know, 6 months or whatever, her and Shanoa Farnsworth, she's one of the leaders for Blue Startups in Honolulu. They're sort of the driving forces behind it. And then there's a core team that helps support the development of Hub Honolulu, and that's the core team that I'm on. And so right now where we're at, we're probably where Dusin was 1 to 2 years ago. So we're still in the real early stages, trying to, all the things he talked about in his story about getting to where he is now, we're at the beginning phases of that. So right now we're looking at a location, possibly, it's probably going to be in Kaka'ako because we have support from the landowners there to provide us with a cheap space that's in one of the old buildings because they see it as a new area for sort of the social enterprise space. We applied to the Hub Network, and we got accepted, and now our clock started, so we only have a certain amount of time to pull it off. And so we are, we're trying to get our financials together, looking at the spaces, how we can cut it all up, how we price it, what the interests are and tenants, all the stuff Dustin talked about, and trying to do that over here. But upcoming, we have a pop-up hub event. So we're actually having the hub, we raise money, we're having the hub come out to Honolulu and do like a mock pop-up hub somewhere in Kaka'ako. To be honest, I was out of the country for the past 3 weeks and missed a couple meetings, so I'm not sure exactly where we're at now. I'm just getting back into the swing of things. So that should be, we're shooting for February to make that happen. And so with that, we're always looking, I was in your position before, and I failed at the opportunity to get involved in things like this or workshops. You guys are stoked, you guys get credit for going to workshops. I never got credit for anything I went to, so take advantage of that if you can, because that's really how I wish I did, because that's when I figured out that that's how you learn a lot about what you're doing. If you're really interested in entrepreneurship or business or being a leader, that's where you get a lot of that's where you soak a lot of stuff in compared to just reading books and reading spreadsheets. Well, spreadsheets is good too, I like spreadsheets. So right now we're trying to reach out to colleges or universities and grad schools to see if any students are interested in getting involved in building this space in Honolulu. You can contact me, I can give you information later, or your professors can send all the information. But I'll just leave it up to Q&A right now, and if you have any more questions, please feel free to bring them up. Thank you.
So questions? I know each of you are working on, yeah.
How does this make money?
So that's a great question. We spent a lot of time trying to figure that out in the beginning. So Impact Hub makes money. So we offer a flexible month-to-month membership. So it's $30 a month to be a Hub Connect member, which means you get access to all of our workshops, all of our evening events, where you come and collaborate with like-minded folks. And then it's similar to, I always tell people in Salt Lake it's similar to like a bike share program where you pay based on what you do. So for a startup, you have 2 options right now in Utah. You can work out of your home, or you can sign like a year lease or a 3-year lease on a space, or work out of a cafe, I guess. But this gives you the ability to start your company in a commercial space, get your corporate mail there, and have all the resources you need. And you can, if you're only there part-time, you can pay for part-time. So it ranges from $30 up to $3.95 a month. And then we also have a venue space, which organizations can rent out. So that's the business model of the hub.
Yeah, so I don't know if I get this question right. What's the advantage of using the hub in general than just doing kind of your own hub by yourself?
Yeah.
Justin?
Yeah.
Repeat the questions.
Yeah, so he asked, what's the advantage of going to the hub versus just doing your own thing? And so for me, if you've ever tried to get a company off the ground, it takes a whole community of people. It takes a whole team of people. So for me, one of the challenges I had during my first startup was, I needed an accountant. I needed an attorney. I needed a great web developer. And I didn't know who to reach out to for these things. I wasn't quite sure exactly how to put my financials together and raise capital. So when I found out for a couple $100 a month, which is what I spend on eating out, I could join a community where I have 20 venture capitalists that work in the same space as me, entrepreneurs who have been there and done it, who are seasoned, who are interested in seeing me be successful. And one thing that's also unique about hubs is they have a hosting program. So there are hosts in the space who work there full time, and their job is to get to know each member, what you're working on, and help connect you to the resources and ideas and the people who can help drive your ideas forward. So that's really the advantage of working in the hub.
How many people have you seen come into the hub and then realize, what, this isn't for you, because everybody wants an idea, everyone wants to start a business, but sometimes some ideas it won't work. What's your success rate for companies, and what's your failure rate?
So the question was I guess in short, does it work for everyone? What's your success rate? What's your failure rate? So our space opens in March. We're under construction right now, so I can't give you too much feedback on that.
How'd you pay your bills while you were starting all this?
So before this, I started another startup, which is a whole other story, and I had a little bit of income coming from that, which basically paid my rent. Like I said, I sold my car. Right before that income ended, and right before it ended, I went down to Honda and bought a brand new dirt bike because I could get a loan still. So I financed that. Credit cards, I don't recommend it. But typically when you're in startup mode, in the very beginning, when you just have this idea or this concept, you've got to be really scrappy. People won't invest in your idea unless you've shown that you're fully invested. So if you have money and you haven't put it into, and you're asking other people for money, there's not a good chance you're going to get help from others. So most startups are funded originally by the entrepreneur themselves or their family members or close friends.
Have you faced a lot of competition from other community workspaces?
No. It's funny, in San Francisco, they have a street called, it's like co-working lane or something. They have 15 co-working spaces downtown. And in Salt Lake City, we don't. And we're very entrepreneurial in Utah, and we have kind of a culture of serving others. So this is, people are really excited about it. Why did I choose Utah? So I'm from Washington, but I've lived in Utah since I was 18. So my family's there, and that's kind of where I want to be. And I see the hub as a platform for me to start other companies. So that's why I chose Utah. in the blue shirt.
Yeah, my brother-in-law, he has a startup company, and he's based out of a small, I don't know, kind of like the Hub, but it doesn't seem like it has the same feeling to it. It's just like a space. What's the difference between the regular old lease out space in an office and your company?
Yeah, so we're really trying to create a culture. So we've really like gone out and tried to create this community and find really talented leaders in Utah. Let's see. Our space is a little different too. So we've got some really great partnerships. So that we have kind of like a funky space that's still, you feel at home when you're in space. We got a partnership with Herman Miller. So the whole space is outfitted with Herman Miller furniture. It's really flexible, and the whole space is designed for the needs of startups to be flexible. So it's a little different than just a normal space. But I think the real value in the Hub is the community.
You said that you guys do workshops, when you're going to be doing. What kind of workshops do you guys do when you put these events together?
So we have two programs. One is called Hub Academy, which is a longer-term certificate programs. So the first one we're rolling out is a coding academy, which is 12 weeks long. You can come, it's really intensive, and you can learn how to code in 12 weeks. Then we do shorter workshops, we call Hub Workbench. So these could be anywhere from an afternoon to a 3-day event, and from everything to setting up your books as a small business to creating a Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaign, to putting together your financials and going out and getting fundraising. And it's a lot of that programming is community driven based on the needs of the entrepreneur. So it's just-in-time education for entrepreneurs.
Sorry, second question. How do you guys market yourselves? I'm sure you have some sort of ad campaign that, hey, when the new guys come, if you have ideas, come be part of our community, but do you guys just do social media, or what do you guys do? So
yes, I haven't been doing a very good job of repeating the questions, but yes, how do we market ourselves? We're learning as we go, right? Instagram has been really big for us. So we started an Instagram account. First we had to have our website and the proper messaging, which we're constantly refining. A lot of people in the beginning they saw this as a space for social entrepreneurs, and they're like, oh, I don't think I'm a social entrepreneur. I'm into tech, or I'm an artist. So now we've changed our messaging to we're a space for entrepreneurs who are working to better the community and the world at large. So people are like, oh, that fits with what I'm doing. So getting your messaging right is key for us first, right? And getting that website up. And then Instagram has been huge in driving people. So Instagram's kind of taken over Facebook for anyone who's even all ages now. I think my mom's on Instagram. So we built a website, or we started an Instagram account, and if you're starting a startup, this is really important to start driving people to your website. So I have the link in the. I'll show you our Instagram account. Anyway, so first we started out talking about what is, we post photos on Instagram of what is Impact Hub, right? So we do Impact Hub is a collaborative co-working space in 50 other cities. And we post photos of other impact hubs. And then as we started building our community, we did member Mondays. So we talk about each Monday we feature a different member and the work they're doing in the community. And then we post advertisements for our events coming up, and then we post photos of the events after they happen. That's kind of how we started building it. So in just a few days, we started following a lot of our friends, and within a few days we had about 3,000 followers. I think we're up to almost 4,000 now. And we get people in twice a week to come in for tours, and they're like, yeah, you like the photo of my golden retriever. And I wanted to see what you're all about so much, your Instagram page, and interested so much your website, and that's kind of how we're building the community.
What is the Instagram name?
It's at Hub Salt Lake. So I don't know why this isn't. Maybe it'll come up, maybe it won't.
So you're basically gathering talented people, right? How do you go about paying, or what do these talented people or people that startups with network, how do you give incentives to them, or just advertising or anything like that?
How do I give incentives to people to join?
I mean, those people that members they will consult, right, for their startups, like the attorneys or the one featured there. Do they get anything from that, or just for advertising?
So for like a legal, okay, so yes, how do you get these mentors to come donate their time to the space and help these entrepreneurs? A lot of them are entrepreneurs just working in the space on their own projects, and maybe I'm working on something in education, and there's someone who's working on helping with refugee families in the Salt Lake community. And if they come to me for help, of course I'm going to help them, because we've created a culture where everyone feels like they're in it together. The other thing is, so for a legal firm or for an accounting firm, we're kind of the startup community in Salt Lake City. And so for a legal firm whose business really thrives from these startups, that's where the big companies come from who end up becoming big clients. They're really excited to get involved, because they can get involved with these companies when they're small and stay with them having them as clients when they grow to be large companies, then becoming really good clients for these businesses. So.
What have you learned about raising capital?
Yeah, so he asked what have I learned about raising capital. So seed funding is completely changing, and it's changing for the good. It is so much easier now to get capital for your company, to attract capital, than it has ever been before. So the first thing is Kickstarter and Indiegogo, where you're able to go and pre-sell product, and so now you can test your business model and validate your customer before you actually go out and raise money and manufacture the product or create the service. So there's that. But just recently, when did the Jobs Act go through, like a year ago? About a year ago, the Jobs Act passed, which is completely changing how capital is raised. So traditionally, in order to raise money, you have to go through like a family friend who might have money. They have to be an accredited investor to invest in your company, which means they have to have a net worth of $1 million minus the value of their home. So for a lot of us who don't have friends like this, it can be difficult. So for those who don't have friends, there are these angel networks. They're called angel investors who provide seed capital to small startups. And you call them up, and if you're lucky, after you send them a slide deck, they invite you to come speak and pitch your idea. And they usually leave you on for about 6 months, and then they don't fund you. Sometimes you get funded, but that's all changing because the Jobs Act went through, which allows startups now to raise money publicly. So you can go out on a website and say, I'm publicly raising money for this startup, here's my idea. And people from all over the world have access to fund you now, versus just these little networks. So AngelList is the most commonly used platform right now, and you can find that at angel.co. And if you have a business idea, you can upload it there, and you can start seeking investors who are interested in that type of deal. So I definitely check that out. And I feel like because it's new, people are using the platform more, and so there's a lot of opportunity to raise money if you have a good idea. Where are we at on time? Okay.
How much of, Impact Hub was kind of packaged for you as like a franchise type of package versus you coming up with your own thing, with branding and with the Impact Hub corporate deal?
Yeah, so his question is how does the corporate governance work and how much was packaged for us? So the way it works is each hub is individually owned and operated. Some are operated as nonprofits, some are for-profits, just based on how most easily you can pull together resources in your community is how you can form. And once you start an Impact Hub and you receive the licensing from Hub Global, you're part of the global governance. And that 20,000 euro I had to come up with in the beginning, that goes into a pool which provides best practices. So we gather best practices from all the hubs around the world and provide those. And a lot of the partnerships, the Herman Miller partnership is part of the global partnership. So Hub Global is very helpful in giving you the know-how and the resources you need to start a hub in your own city. Well, let's do one more. Okay, let's not. So I was hoping there'd be a whiteboard or something that we could write down our information and how to connect with us. Should we just give that to you, Sister Brown?
Yeah, you can send it out.
We'll send out to everybody on campus.
Okay, great. And our website is impacthub.net. And you can go through and you can explore what cities there are hubs in. If you're interested in starting a hub yourself, you can contact me. My email is dustin@hubsaltlake.com. And we're on Instagram and Facebook, so check us out there. And we'll also, we'll give Sister Brown Kaino's information too, so you can connect with him. So thanks so much for the opportunity. Yeah.